Good day everyone. So for today's video, we are going to tackle about the shapes of society. One thing all human beings in the world today have in common is the fact that we are born into a certain society. Like in your situation, the world was not empty when you came into it. You already belong to a society which is the Philippine society. However, thousands of years ago, even before there were philosophers, even before human beings learned how to write, there are individuals who started to form groups, placed rules and rulers in them, shared practices, and established cultures. How did they start it? How did entering into society change their lives? We will answer this question in this lesson as we talk about the shapes of society. Human beings learn to form society first before they have learned to record their accomplishments. In philosophy, there is a theory that addresses the origin of society, which states that human beings entered into a contract with each other to surrender some of their freedom and rights for the safety and protection of their other rights. And this theory is called social contract theory. So, siguro familiar naman mo sa concept sa contracts, di ba? Marriage, citizenship, employment, and so on. Mao na siya ang lahi-lahi na forms sa isa ka contract. A contract is an agreement between two parties. If one party violates the term of the agreement, the contract is no longer valid. So, one example of social contract theory is this one. So, as you can see sa picture, na ay duha ka tao na nagbuhat silag agreement nila and syempre both sila nag-agree ana na ilahang buhaton. Another example of social contract theory is that kung tahay ikaw and ang imong friend is naamoy agreement na which is dili mo dapat malate sa klase within this week. If one of you violated the terms and rules sa inyong contract naghimo or agreement naghimo, ang nag-violate ato ang ma-punish. One principal social contract theories is Thomas Hobbes. Hobbes' theory starts with the proposition that humans are basically self-interested. Our actions are performed because it has benefit for us one way or another. Meaning ane, example, kita na mga tao, kita na normal people, mumatata, mukaon, maligo, minumog tubig, para unsa, di ba? Para lang pod sa atua, para mabuhi patagdugay. Mao na siya ang reason nato ngano ginabuhat nato na ng mga butang. Another example is that kita na mga students karon, di ba? Huna-huna nato na need nato makahuman og eskwela, need nato mo padayon og eskwela. Maski ang uban sa ato kay labag sa loob nila mo eskwela, labaw na ron na ingane pandemic and whatsoever. Maski labag sa loob nato mo eskwela, ang another side of us kay ginaisip nato na kailangan nato magmuhuman og eskwela para gihapon na sa ato para natay bright future and para in the near future maka-work ta. Mao na ang atuang mindset and mao na ang ginapasabot ni Hobbes na humans are basically self-interested. Hobbes' social contract theory rests on the hypothetical state of nature. The state of nature is the situation of human beings before any form of society was established. So, nauna pa ang state of nature kesa sa social contract theory. Sa state of nature kay there are no rules, no laws, no traditions, no rulers to follow. It is a situation that is brutish and competitive. In this situation, Hobbes stated, Homo homini lupus est. It is a Latin sentence that translates to, man is beast to another. Meaning aning man is beast to another na ginapasabot ni Hobbes is that sa state of nature daw kay ang tao marag animal. Buhaton nila, tanan nila gusto maski pag makaharm sila other animal or other tao basta sa huna-huna nila kay para to sa ilahang ikabuti. Muna siya ang meaning sa man is a beast to another. So, diba, gi-describe ni Hobbes kaning state of nature as a man is beast to another daw. Para mas masabtan pag-ayo kung unsa ning state of nature, mao ni siya ang situation na free lang kaayo nimo buhaton tanan, bahalag bad pa na, bahalag unsa pa na, basta kabalo ka na para na sa ikabuti sa imong sarili. For example, kita nata sa situation aning state of nature. Ikaw, pulubig ka, wala kay makaon and everything, and you decided to steal something from me. Pwede siya kwarta, pwede pagkaon. So mo to, nangawat ka sa akua and nidagan ka, nato kasi yung balay, and para sa imuha, dili to bad imong gibuhat kay para lang to sa ikabuti sa imong sarili para makasurvive ka. And ako, nasakpan tika na nangawat sa akua, gisundan tika sa inyong balay. Pag-abot ako sa inyong balay, gipaabot sa anako na magabi. Walay mupataw og parusa sa imuha maskin gikawatan ko nimo kay kini man sa state of nature, there is no police or government who would hold you responsible. Wala siya dire. So mo to gipaabot na ako ang gabi. Then, pagtungtong sa gabi, nisulod ko sa inyong balay and nag-decide ko na patyon tika kay wala for revenge kay kawatan ko nimo ana to get rid of you kay thief man ka. And masipag ipatay tika, wala gihapoy mo pataw og parusa sa akua kay again there are no rules, no laws, no tradition, no rulers to follow. But syempre maski pag gipatay na tika, okay na ko ana, dili gyapon mawala ang fear sa ako kay kabalo ko any minute now, any day, any hour, pwede ko balsan sa ubang tao, pwede ko pasakitan sa ubang tao, or pwede pod sa inyong relative ana, pwede ko nila i-avenge ba sa imong pagkamatay, pwede na nila buhaton sa akwa and still dili sila mapatawan og parusa. Hobbes recognized that human became reasonable. He thought that man's capability to think would enable him to realize that he cannot live a life within the state of nature. Man's reason would allow him to understand that the state of nature is the worst situation he could be in. So, diri na nisulod ang social contract theory. Social contract theory is the mark of the beginning of a civil society and that human beings who entered it cannot violate it. So, diba, dali na nisulod tong social contract theory. The contract would have conditions, and this include the following. Number 1, they must collectively agree to give up some of their rights and freedom that they initially held while they were in the state of nature. And number 2, they must choose a person or a group of person who has the authority to implement the rules they would create in contract. Pasabot aning number 1 kay, 'di ba, nauna man ang state of nature and kabalutan na dito sa state of nature kay free ra kaayo tanan. Free ra kaayo nimo buhaton tanan, free ra ka mag-decide unsa i-execute nimo or buhaton. But kung musulod ka aning social contract, you have to give up some of your rights and freedom according dere. Why? Siyempre kay sa social contract naakay ka-agree, naakay kasabot, and pag naakay ka-agree, siyempre naamoy i-follow na rules. That's why dili pwede na murarakag na asa state of nature, which is pwede ra nimo buhaton tanan. Diri sa social contract naay limitations ang imong mga mabuhat, naay limitations ang mga dili nimo mabuhat. Number 2, diri sa number 2 kay murarag ka ng same good karon na kunyari mo pirma kag kontrata, syempre dapat naa kay witnesses, dapat naa kay abogado sa karon na panahon ha, di ba ing ana. So kay para syempre naay maka-justify na gibuhat ninyo na contract and wala lang ka nagbuhat-buhat og storya.
So tungod sa pag-establish sa social contract, ang mga tao naka-create og law like dili pag patay sa isikatao or dili pagkawat sa isikatao. So in other words, not committing crimes to one another. And then ang social contract mo na siya ang sinugdanan sa civil society, which is bawal malabag ang mga tao atong law. And then ang And then if ma-violate nila to, kay natagaan sila o parusa or parusahan sila. And then bisag ingon ni Hobbes nga gituohan pud ni Jacques Rousseau na ang society daw na-originate from the creation of a social contract. Pero na contrary si Jean-Jacques kay ana siya sa una daw dili pa daw kaayo yung anak ka brutal or kalala ang situation in the state of nature. Kay sa una ang population dili pa daw yung ato kadaghan pareha karon, and then ang resources daghan and sim unlimited man dili na kailangan sa una sa mga dili na kailangan ang mga tao dili na kailangan mapatay sa una or mangawat para lang maka provide sa ilang needs. Kay igo naman to sa ilahatanan or unlimited pa gani, sobra pa siguro. Pero as time goes by ang population nagkadaghan and then ang resources nagkagamay na siya yung limitation ng mga resources kay daghan naman ang mga tao moto ang mga tao pod nagsugod na og claim og lands as their property. So nag-angkon na sila og mga lands nang ilan ang giangkon nga land kay para ilang matamnan o mga bisanan sa para ma-provide nila ang ilang mga needs. So dito na ang social contract ug government nag-create og order nga protektahan ang private property sa mga tao. So nagka-impact to sa mga individual nga walay property. So ang society nag-proceed sa division of labor and development of social classes. And then upon the concept of division of labor, nandun na siya effect or disadvantage para sa isa ka individual. Kaya ang isa ka individual is set to do the same task for the rest of his life. So kung unsa pud ang di set nga task sa giha, mao to yung himuon in the rest of his life, yung habang buhay na to niya himuon. And then sa social class, ang mga tao nag-differ in terms of their manner, behavior, and maybe even practices. So ang upper class tend to be fine and delicate in their demeanors. So mga upper class daw tend to be fine ang ilahang tawagan ni state of living. So mas hayahay na sila, unlike sa mga sa lower classes. Or mga working classes. Ang kani sila nga working classes are seen to be more resilient and resourceful. So mga sila ang medyo madiskarte. Basta ito sila. Thank you very much.
Lesson 2. The second part of the shapes of society. Tripartite theory of the soul. It is a theory in Plato's widely read dialogue, The Republic. He described his utopian society that is based on his theory of the soul. According to Plato, a person's soul has three parts. Tripartite theory of the soul is a theory na gihimo ni Plato na dito gina-describe niya ang iyang utopian society. Utopian, which means na iyang ideal or para sa iya mao perfect na society. And ang tripartite theory of the soul
or a person's soul has three parts. Ang pinaka-first is ang appetitive part, the one responsible for our desires and appetites. This part is necessary for our survival. So, sa appetitive part, ito na belong ang mga necessary or ang mga desires nato. Ito na belong ang mga bagay na necessary for our survival. Kagaya na lang ng mga food, water, shelter. Ito na belong sa appetitive part. However, the appetitive part can also desire for things we do not necessarily need. So, pwede sad na ang ato ang appetitive part kay nag-desire o mga bagay na dili na to necessary na kinahanglan. Diba? Ana o dito usahay. Parehaan ang mga gamit na kapalutan na dili man dyan na kinahanglan or not necessary sa ato pero gusto dyan na to paliton. Parehaan ang mga bags, mga luxurious na mga bags, uban na ka ng mga brand new na mga gamit, good. Thus, Plato proposed that we ought to control our appetites and strive for the virtue of moderation, which would enable us to manage and check our desires. So, dapat kita as a person is nato tayo virtue of moderation. Kapalutan mo control sa mga bagay na tuang kinahanglan. Dili porket gusto nimo ang isa ka bagay, makuha na nimo. Dili porket gusto nimo siya, dapat imo nang i-pursue. Dili na ana. Tanawon sa nimo kung kinahanglan ba nimo. Kung dili mo kay kinahanglan, ayaw lang sa. Second is ang spirited part, the one responsible for our will and volitions. This part is needed for us to take the proper action on things that has risk. So, ang spirited part is mo na siya ang responsible sa ato ang mga will, mga gusto. Halimbawa, ikaw kay muapil ka o isa ka rag contest. Tapos, kabalo ka sa sarili na how ka mo drawing. Pero, ang imuhang fear ang mas nagalabaw. Ito na nagbilong sa imong spirited part. Dapat, thus Plato proposed that we also need to control our spirit and strive for the virtue of courage. Dapat natay courage sa tuwang self. Nakabalita mo ak. Baskin pa nahadlok ka. Baskin pa nahadlok ka. Go for it. Kay kabalo man ka na. Howd ka na. Take risk. Ana lang na. Tira na bilong sa spirited part. Third and last is the rational part, the one responsible for our reason or intellect. So sa rational part, tira na bilong ang atuang intellect. The rational part is important for us to make good decisions in the problems we face every day. So, 3A, nagbilong kung unsa ka mag-decide sa isa ka bagay. Dapat kapuluta kung unsay tama or mali. Hence, we ought to strive for the virtue of wisdom. Dapat wise ta. In order for us to have a clear and sound mind that would enable us to choose what is right. Plato believed that there are people whose appetitive parts are dominant in them. There are people whose spirited parts are the ones always in function. And there are people whose rational parts are always exercised. Each person belongs to a certain group or class depending on which part of the soul is evident in him. So, kita as a person, naadyo'y murag mas kusgan na part sa atoa. Whether ang atong appetitive part ba, kung naabot ay virtue of moderation, kabalo ba ta mo control, or ang spirited part ba nato, virtue of courage, kapag ta mo face sa isa ka bagay, or ang sa rational part nato, natatay virtue of wisdom, kung wise na ta. So, ang kana daw na mga klase is natin nila, kana sila na part is na lahi-lahi na klase. And kita as a person, kung asa ka na blog, na po na lahi-lahi na role na dapat nimo kampanan. And the people who are appetitive in nature ought to be the general public. There are the merchants, laborers, or artisans. So, ang mga person or ang mga tao na mas dominant sa ilang appetitive part is maodo ni ilang role. Kinang sila ang mga trabahante. Kay kabalo sila mo control o isa ka bagay. Then, those who are spirited out to be the militia. These are the soldiers that protect our lands, or the police who implement the laws. Tapos, ang mga tao sad ng ilang spirited part ang mas nagalabaw is mao daw na ang mga military or ang mga police. Ngano, kay mas kusgan ang ilang virtue of courage. Kay kabalo sila mo face sa ilang fear na baski makipaglaban ng sila dira inadyong ginaingon silang sarili na madaog ko kaya na ko ni mao nang dira sila na bilong. Then those who are rational ought to be the rulers or the public officials who create the laws and make the biggest decisions in the country. So, ang mga tao sad na mas nagalabaw ang ilahang rational part is mao ng mga tao na nagahimo sa mga laws o ang mga politicians kanang the rules isa ka country ngano kay wise man sila naa sa ilaha ang ginapossess nila ang isa ka ang pagka-wise. Then, following Plato's theory means that the citizens and the general public should have the virtue of moderation. Kaya sa akong giingon kanina. Mga general public kaya dapat na ginapossess nila ang virtue of moderation. Kabalo mo control. Soldiers and the police should possess courage. And the rulers and public officials should be wise.
David Emil Durkheim argued that society was like a human body. Society was made of various institutions, acted like organs of the body. They need to be functioning properly for the body. So, he initiated the idea of functionalism. Functionalism is a theory about nature of mental state. So according to functionalists, mental state are identified by what they do rather than what they are made of. The purposes each society has unique characteristic of its own, be studied objectively and scientifically. Just as scientists study, for example, the activities of microorganisms. Collective consciousness. Durkheim also proposed the idea that each society has it. For Durkheim, each culture passes on certain values, belief, and stage to the individuals who belong in it. And these values, belief, direct behavior of this individual even without their knowing. In general, it does not refer to a scientifically moral consequence, but to a shared understanding in normal norms. For example, we would find that Filipinos in almost all parts of country are hospitable. We are renowned for this unique characteristic. Also, even if we are now more open towards other cultures, typically Filipino would still choose halo-halo over chendol or sisig over beef bourguignon. Through collective consciousness, our society also shaped our preference and behavior. It also evident that the rules of law certain society reflect their collective consciousness. Some state in the United States of America have legalized to use and vending a marijuana in the Philippines. Both in the even position of such consider a crime. It is because within the collective conscious of Filipinos, marijuana and other drugs are distinguished negatively. Laws that socialize people into what is right and what is wrong in their society. And so our laws forbid it. Thus, committing a crime or doing something illegal, it's also a violation against collective consciousness. So who's that philosopher? David Emile Durkheim is a French psychologist who developed a vigorous methodology. He formally established the academic discipline of society.
Lesson 3: The institutions of society. Throughout history and all over the world, human beings have taken different forms of society in terms of the resources available to them, their economic standing, and even their political systems. Each of these forms carry a unique characteristics that has made its members unique too. In these lessons, we shall compare their uniqueness and similarities with each other, find out where we currently stand, and discover both their benefits and burdens. We can classify the forms of societies into three: pre-industrial societies, industrial society, post-industrial society. Pre-industrial societies, human beings are directly dependent on their environment as their technological level is not as advanced as we have today. Industrial society is different on machines and human labor in order to manufacture products with the exact same quality. Post-industrial society is characterized as the age of information and technological advancement where people are highly dependent on these advancements for communication and transactions for different kinds of services. So, in pre-industrial, humans are dependent on the environment. Pre-industrial society also refer to social attributes and forms of political and cultural organization that were prevalent before the advent of the Industrial Revolution, which occurred from 750 to 1850. Pre-industrial is a time before there were machines and tools to help perform tasks. Ano to siya guys? So, additional. Social institution, ga-focus siya sa needs or resources nga available sa economy or even sa political system or government. So, nahati siya into three forms, which is pre-industrial, kato akong kanina, industrial o post-industrial. Additional na po siya guys. Sa pre-industrial, depend sila sa ilang environment kung unsa good ang available, tapos dili kayo advance ang technology kung ikumpara nato sa panahon karon. Also, sa pre-industrial society, nasulod sa diri ang gathering, hunting, pastoral, hunting and gathering society, which is also known as tribal society, is characterized with primary practice. Individuals form as small group with a little
more or less 100 members that are divided into two, the hunters and the gatherers. Members of the hunting and gathering society do not plant, not take animals, and so they keep moving from one place to another when they're running out of resources in their current position. So, social institutions are order focused on meeting social needs such as government, economy, education, family, healthcare, and religion. Some sociological methods focus on examining social institutions over time or compare them to social institutions in other parts of the world.
So, pastoral society has members that take animals to meet their basic needs for food and for domestication and breeding. They can provide more food for their members, and because they do not just meet their basic needs, they were able to create different kinds of crops from the animals like clothing, accessories, and tools. So, pastoral society kay kato nitong gapastol og mga animals. Ang mga animals is mauna ilang ginahimo or mauna ang basic needs or mauna ang naga-provide sa ilahang mga basic needs taga-adlaw.
So, ang horticultural society, naga-focus na siya sa pag-nurture sa plants, fruits, and vegetables gamit ang technology. Gistadihan nila ang life sa mga plant and methods to cultivate them better like using fertilizers. So, sa agrarian society, nagagamit Japon sila og technology and also included harvesting of products gikan sa animals. Kanina society makasupport ni siya og larger number of members since daghan man silag amounts of food supply. An industrial society is characterized with capitalism where naay free nga competition sa private individuals who own the means of production. Capitalism is considered a society with many institutions of businesses that mass produce certain products. Human labor became cheaper and ang laborers ug ang machine operators kay poor o gina-considered nga unimportant and also dali lang mailisan. Ang last is post-industrial society, which is characterized with virtual society tungod sa development sa technology. The virtual society is also allowed individuals nga makonect sa isa't isa para makuha o ma-achieve nila ang common objectives.
Lastly, who is that philosopher? Isidore Marie Auguste Francois Xavier Comte, born on January 19, 1798, and location of birth is Montpellier, France. And major works is an Introduction to Positives. Degree earned was Comte did not finish his studies, and he died on September 5, 1857, and one of his famous quotes is, "To understand the science, it is necessary to know its history."
So, lesson 4. The hands that shape society. Whether we like it or not, our beliefs and perspective are somehow clouded by the principles of the society that brought us up. The standards one used in finding a partner, how parents rear their children, what we think about relationships, and many others are all influenced in a way by our social upbringing. In this lesson, we will tackle different social systems that has transformed its members' quality of life and how these members can change and shape these social systems. Starting out, how do social systems influence character and relationships. Learn about it. One of the most notable philosophers in the area of social and political philosophy, economics, and sociology is Karl Marx. So, si Karl Marx, muna siyang pinaka-notable philosopher sa social and political philosophy, economics, and sa sociology. So, si Marx, naa siya'y duha ka important books, To Fall, Capitalism, and Rise of Socialism. Ang kani siya nga books is ang Das Kapital o ang Communist Manifesto. Then, si Marx, naa siya'y tulo ka means of production. In order to produce something. First, land, second, labor, and the third is capital. Land, diba sa aton hibalaan, ang land, may siyang surface sa earth and all its natural resources. But diri wala lang siya nag-refer sa place or a space sa business na nag-occupy. Pero, kuan sa siya sa mga animals na kung asa ang raw materials gikan. Then, ang labor, di ba sa ito naibalaan ang labor? Ang labor, man siya ang nagatukoy sa mga tao na kanang mga kailangan sa mga negosyante para mag-operate sa ilang mga machines sa mga negosyante. And then, ang capital, syempre, sinibalaan nato is a term for financial assets or money. Pero dili lang doon siya nagatukoy sa kwarta. Pero sa mga gamit, sa tools, or sa equipment, o sa machines na ginagamit para makakreate og product. So, kapital sa doon siya. And then, Marx, nasan siya yung mga comprehensive theory of history. Nga kauban niya si Friedrich Engels, kung in which na naga-detail sila na sa mga different na social system na naga-occur sa history. Kani siya nga social system, kani mga stages. First, primitive communism, second, feudalism, and then third, capitalism. Capitalism, ano siya ang prevailing social economics during sa time ni Marx. And nagatuo si Marx nga sa katapusan ani niya maguba ra Japon ni og mapulihan siya sa socialism. So, ang primitive communism is characterized with small tribes or gamay lang siya nga tribes nga naasay gamay nga mga members na ang ilahang activities lang kay ang paghunting o pag-gather sa ilang mga pagkaon. Tawag din siya nga primitive tungod kay tinuod ang ilang mga activities og basic lang og ancient way para makasurvive. And then, kani siya is form of communism tungod ang members ani nga tribe kay free sila mag-share sa ilang mga resources. Ginahatag sad sa mga hunters ang tanan nila na nakuha sa ilahang community og nagbuhat o gatherers. Each member or taga-isa sa ilahang mga member kay or katong na-assigned sa mga particular nga work, nagadistribute silang na-produce tatanan. Primitive communism mao ni siya ang way of describing the gift economies of hunter-gatherers throughout history. Kung asa ang ilang mga resources o property hunted and gathered kay share or ginabahagi nila sa tanang members ana nga group in accordance with individual needs. So, wala siya'y concept of private property sa money or trading. Or kundi, there is no private ownership of property parehas sa clothing, mga sanina, sa mga similar items. Kay tungod, ang primitive society produced just enough and is immediately consumed, and there is no surplus. Whatever exists for a lengthy time, like tools and housing, are communally owned. While relationships kay ginatawag lang siya og simple life. Kay tungod og generosity, kay tungod tanan dito kay own na.
Feudalism. More and more human beings inhabiting as tribes develop. Some clans would separate from their original tribe to their own tribe. Therefore, resources are starting to be limited. Tribes started to fight each other, and whoever wins would take the land of the losing side as their properties, and the survivors would become their slaves, and this results to feudalism. From its own term, which was derived feud, meaning a fight. It is characterized by having upper classes as the landowners. The inferiority between clans depends on the piece of lands they acquired due to fighting. There are also some set conditions such as feudal lords, emperor or chiefs, and eventually monarchs. The upper class shall be given lands and titles by the monarch. The lower class are divided due to their social class. The children of the upper class shouldn't be mixed with the slaves. The union between slaves and upper class are prohibited and given viewed as a disgust. Capitalism. People start to trade some people able to create unique things that only they can produce. Small businesses started, shops and factories emerged. By that, businessmen were richest people. They control the government and the means of the production. This is what capitalism is. It is characterized with free competition among different businesses, and the focus of each person is to make more money. The capitalists or businessmen are now considered as the upper class, while slaves are replaced by the factory workers and the working class. The working class are in a miserable situation and would eventually realize that they are being exploited by the capitalists. Socialism. The result is harmonious relationship among the people because there is no division of classes, no rich or poor, and no comparison. A new social system is called socialism. In a socialist society, there is a strong government management of products.
Alright, so we're now at the last part of this unit, the lesson number 5, which is entitled The Society That Shapes. Now, I'm Arnil Lawrence S. Pamat, who will be reporting you everything in this particular lesson. So, okay, now let's proceed. The previous lessons have presented different forms of societies in terms of economic and political areas. Now, our task in this lesson is to examine their influences on an individual's relationships and evaluate how we can take them in improving our own society. So we have recognized the fact that our behavior, preferences, attitude, and beliefs can be determined by our social interactions. It simply means that ma-identify na to sila. What I mean by sila is katong behavior, preferences, attitude, and beliefs. Ma-identify na to sila based on how we interact with each other or how we go along with other people. So, first is the behavior and attitude. For example, you are with a group of people nga dili nimo gusto makauban that time. So, bali imo jud siyang ipakita nga dili nimo sila gusto kauban. Dili ka magpa-fake ana, dili ka magpa-fake ana. So kung dili mo sila gusto makauban, pakita nimo nga dili nimo sila gusto makauban. Therefore, na-determine na nimo ang imong behavior, imong attitude towards them by social interactions. Now, let's proceed to the preferences. For example, you're acquainted between two groups, the elegants and the rappers. Now, ang nakita niyo sa mga elegante nga tao is gwapo sila manamit, they wear suits and ties, and they are good looking, just like that. And on the other hand, the rappers wear oversized tees, oversized t-shirts. When you look at them, you think that they are far more different sa mga elegant people. So now, while you get along with them, kasi we're talking about social interactions, so we get along with the elegant people, napansin nimo nga murag maot sila og batasan. Madili ka ganahan silang batasan kay inana sila. Now, katong nakauban ni mga rappers is ganahan ka kay feel nimo ang vibe nila, and every minute with them, vibe lang kay nga vibe. So, we could say nga sa mga preferences, rappers are way more better than elegant people because your experience on the social interaction with them are different. Sa elegant, mo to imong na-experience, so mo to ang imong preference sa ilaha or mo to dito nimo sila nga preference ibutang. Bali in the end, ang better people gihapon is katong rappers and ang good is katong elegance lang. So ang better para sa imo is ang rapper ug dili ang elegant because na-experience man nimo sila and naapektuhan man ang imong preferences on the social interaction. Next is our emotions towards animals may have been guided by our previous experiences with them. Example ani is mangutana kasi sa tao nga dili lang sa isa ka tao, mangutana ka sa mga tao nga dili ganahan og iro. Kasi may dili ganahan iro diri. Mangutana ka sa ilaha nganong dili ka ganahan iro. Most of the time, ang ilaha yung itubag is dili ko ganahan og iro kay na traumatize ko ana or i-atake ko ana sa una or na paakan ko ana sa una, ana mo ginailang itubag. Therefore, their emotions towards dog is angry. Kay siyempre, naisa ka dog nga nag-atake sila and they feel traumatized themselves. So, mo na to nga, all throughout their lives, they will hate the dog. That's how they see the dog na. Unless na lang og someone nga magpa-change sa ilang perspective towards dog. Another example is sa dog lang yapon. Pangutanon nimo tong tao nga love ang dog. Nganong love nimo ang dog? Nganong ganahan man kag dog? So, say for example lang itubag niya is ang dog manggod naka-save sa akong life, hapit ko malumos tapos gi-save ko niya. Now, kato nga experience, kato nga social interaction with the dog nga gi-save siya kay hapit siya malumos, mutatak na siya sa iyang utok and that will never be forgotten by him or her. So, all throughout his life, he or she will consider that the dogs are loving and caring creatures kasi that's what they've experienced on their social interactions with the dog. So what I am sharing right now are just examples of how much our social activities influence our daily lives. It simply means that experiences are a great teacher sa atong pang-adlaw-adlaw nga pangkinabuhi. Now, in this lesson, we will tackle about the two types of societies. So basically, there are two types of societies, and the first one is the traditional societies. Traditional society is leaning towards patriarchy and values. Patriarchy means that elder male is the leader, or say for example in a group of people, there is a 65-year-old woman and here comes a 64-year-old male. So instead nga katong 65-year-old woman ang magdala sa group, it should be the 64-year-old male because he is the male. Siya ang may authority na maghawid sa group. Muna siya ang meaning sa patriarchy. Next is the deviants or the rebels. Rebels are viewed negatively in this tradition. It's because wala nila sunod ang gusto nga mahitabo sa kunyari sa family na anak. Wala niya gisunod ang gusto mahitabo sa iyang parents. Then their parents or his or her parents will look at him as a negative part of their family or as a threat to their family. Example here is isa nakakita ang God's Not Dead 2. Diri ang salida na isa ka babae nga she was part of an Islam religion. But she was introduced in the Christianity. He listens to the music of Christian. He listens to the pastors that are preaching about Christians, about God, things like that. Now what she wants is to become a Christian and not to become an Islam anymore. Now her parents are not okay with her decisions. Her parents are really angry. Nasuko ang iyang parents sa iya. It's because it should be not like that because they are Islam and they should be Islam forever. That's what her parents wanted to happen. But then again, gusto magid niya nga mahimong Christian. So, mo gid yang gisunod. Gusto gid siya mahimong Christian pero mo lagi to siya. Gitan-aw siya as rebels or deviants sa iyang family. Next nga key point is marriage is seen as sacred. It means that if the two opposite sex give promises in front of themselves, in front of God, they give a promise that till death do they part, they mean it. It means that they should not be separated until death do they part. Moment lang yata nga promise. Bali, ang kuha nila is sacred. So, kung nahatag na nimo nga promise in front of God, dili na nimo na siya i-take back. Dili na nimo na siya ma-revoke in the form of separation, annulment, or divorce. Dili na siya applicable diri sa traditional nga society. Next key point is the authority and tradition. Kani siya, pwede nato ni siya example ang isa ka royal family. So for example, ang royal family na ay duha ka anak, babae o lalaki. Obviously, kung mamatay na ang parents nila, ang lalaki ang maghawid sa mga ari-arian sa parents nila. Even though babae ang kinamagulangan, ang lalaki nga anak ang maghawid because he has the authority and they are following the tradition of a royal family. As we all know, ang royal family, mga lalaki gud ang bali sa isa ka family, ginakuan din nila nga lalaki ang maghawid sa something nga giari niya or mga ari-arian sa family. Ang lalaki gud ang magsunod. So kung ibutang nato ni siya sa normal family lang, it simply means that girls are taught to be a mother soon, and then boys are taught to be a father soon. Ang mga babae ginatudloan maging obedient, maging maghino sa balay, manghugas og plato, manglaba, muna ginatudlo sa mga babae sa mga eskwelahan. Now sa mga lalaki ginatudlo is carpentry, paano mag-drive, paano mag-do some circuits, muna siya ginatudlo sa mga lalaki po sa eskwelahan in the traditional society. So to sum up, every practices in this society, the traditional society, are the same practices we are living right now here in the Philippines as a Filipino. Diba? Inanam dito itong ginaya mo karon da patriarchy, father ang masunod because they are the ones that have the authority. The divines are the rebels. The children should not disobey their parents. It's like that. Now, marriage is sacred. Here in the Philippines, they do not allow annulment or any kinds of divorce or any kinds of separation between two married couple. The next type of society is the secular society. This society, on the other hand, lean towards freedom of individual expression. So, diri is free ka nga i-express ang imong feeling. Ibutang nato tong example nga katong sa God's Not Dead 2 nga babae. Kung naato siya sa secular nga society, Islam siya, gusto niya maging Christian, so be it. Musugot ng iyang parents kay mamanto siya, secular naman sila sa secular society and they have the freedom to express their individual expression man. Kung nato siya sa secular society, dili masukoy ang parents because that's what she wants and she has the freedom to do on what she wants. Next key point is the unconventional relationships. Diri sa secular relationships, diri naga-occur ang a man marrying a man and a woman marrying a woman. Bali, diri naga-occur ang same sex marriage which is somehow called unconventional relationship because it's not normal for us. And most of the time, kaning ina nga situation ani siya sa United States of America or USA. And diri apud is they consider marriage as a legal process than a religious one. Bali, ang marriage ginatag nila ni siya as a legal process lang, dili siya ingon nga promise in front of God. Bali gihimo nila ni because they wanted to build a family and that's the rule. So mo to gisunod nila ang legal process, nagmarry sila. Mo lang ang ilahang definition sa marriage sa diri sa secular societies, dili siya as religious one. Because of that, they are given the choice to separate anytime after their wedding. So kung dili na sila ganahan, pwede rin sila mag-divorce. Again, they are free to express their expression. Next is the egalitarian. This means that parents treat each others equally. Father and mother could be the ilaw ng tahanan or could be the haligi ng tahanan or vice versa, and as well as their children. Children are not given the roles based on gender or birth order. So unlike the royal practices or unlike the practices of the royal family, walay kinamagulangan, walay kinamanghuran. They are both the same, they are the same level, both of them are given tasks and responsibilities. So as we can see, every social system has its unique characteristics. Nago sila unique characteristics and traditional na siya marriage, sacred marriage, na siya mga authority, patriarchy. Tapos on the other hand, kaning secular societies na siya freedom to speak, freedom to express their expression, kung silang gusto, pwede mahitabo. Mo to sila mga unique characteristics, but they both share the same thing. They both have a problem. Or in the societies, in the traditional society and in the secular society, problems are both occurring inside of it. So it's up to them na kung unsaon nila pag solve sa ilang problem. Because they have the different ways man, because they are different societies man, as we all know, different ilang societies. Now, the Frankfurt School was a group of philosophers, sociologists, and social psychologists who worked before and after the Second World War and was responsible for a concept that is now known as a critical theory. This proposed that in order to solve social and practical problems, perspectives from different disciplines must be taken into consideration. It means that naisa ka problem between two parties, dapat balansihon ang first party kung unsay ang mga mali nga nahimo, balansihon ang second party kung unsay ang mga mali nga nahimo, and then make a solution. That's what the critical theory means. Dapat paminawon ang each side, and the solution should not be one-sided because the problem occurred between two parties, then the solution should be made between the two parties, not just one party. This means that in order for us to understand, evaluate, and create good decisions for the members of our society, we should listen to them and feel free to receive their opinions and preferences. So that's all the information that I could give you here in the lesson number 5. And to wrap up this discussion, I want to ask a question. On what society do you want to be part of? The traditional society or the secular society? That's all. Thank you.